All right. Good afternoon, everyone. The team from Kentucky Skills U is thrilled to be here to share with you our rapid professional learning response that we're calling Microlearning Mondays and Workshop Wednesdays. Next slide, Pam, please. I'm joined with the entire college and career prep team involved in coordinating this process. That would include myself, Emily Bosley, our senior coordinator, Pam Callahan, who's driving the slides today, and Joanna Botts. We could not do anything that we're doing without this stalwart team of hardworking women, so I'm glad to be joined by all of them today and grateful for their contributions. Next slide. So I just want to start by kind of giving you a chronological perspective to what we've developed in Kentucky so that you could easily follow step by step and consider how you might adopt all or even just portions of the process that we developed that might be useful to your respective states or programs. Like many of you, Kentucky began their COVID-19 related closure and commute shelter at home rules around March the 16th. By March the 23rd, we realized we really needed to do something to quickly help programs fully convert to remote delivery of instructional services. And we decided that we would launch our first ever Kentucky Skills U statewide distance learning webinar, and that happened on the 23rd of March. And we decided the focus would initially be on resources that help programs stay connected with students, how to quickly convert that center-based instruction to remote instruction. And this is so ironic looking back on it now, but we were worried that nobody would attend because of all the, problems that were happening related to COVID-19. So we scrambled to figure out how we would get people to join the webinar. And we took our desk reference copies of curricula and different items that had been shared with us. And in our promotion of the meeting, we said, we're going to give out free prizes if you'll join us and learn more about remote instruction, distance learning options. And to our great surprise, at that first webinar, we exceeded our Zoom capacity. And a lot of people were locked out of the meeting and couldn't participate and were scrambling to try to access the resources we'd shared in that first webinar. So we knew that we needed to do something in a more ongoing basis. And so that first webinar evolved into our weekly Microlearning Monday, Workshop Wednesday sessions. So we start out the week with a 30-minute session on Monday, and then we practice sandbox style what we learned from that session, So far, we have had 6 sessions that have focused on a wide variety of instructional technology, but also best practices for teaching content via instructional technology or remote learning. And we are thrilled to report that we're averaging about 150 to 200 participants at every session. We had so much interest that we had to switch to a different platform, in fact, to allow for a larger number of participants. So, where we are all facing, I guess, challenge and crisis on many fronts, it's been rewarding to all of us to try to take this and turn it into an opportunity instead of a reason to just feel defeated. So that's been a bright spot or an inspiration to all of us as we've seen the interest in professional learning grow as a result of what we're doing. Another thing that developed as a result of this Microlearning Monday, Workshop Wednesday approach was we had a regular slate of professional learning options that of course was compromised because of all the closures. So we quickly modified our professional learning compliance model into a 3x3 model. And we allowed our providers to attend any combination of their choice of 3 sessions and then apply what they learned for another 3 hours of professional learning credit. So if they had a product that showed they actually implemented one of the strategies they learned, they would submit that in kind of a project-based learning format and would get credit for their effort. So this is just a brief overview. We're, like I said, going to take a chronological approach, and I'm going to turn things over to Pam, who's going to talk to you about how we began communicating and promoting the MMWW approach with our providers. Pam?
All right, so thank you, Lori. So the first thing that Lori had mentioned is we had reached our capacity very quickly with Zoom. We had the account that allowed up to 100 participants. And so we made a change to the WebEx platform, and the WebEx platform that we have access to will allow us to have up to 1,000 users. We wanted to have a way to clearly communicate what we were doing with the field, and we have an absolutely wonderful marketing person at our state office. And so she designed a communication that went out to our directors and our assistant directors and our 27 providers with information about each session. And the way we set up the hyperlinks, they can use the same hyperlink for the Monday sessions and then a different hyperlink for the Wednesday sessions. So they're not having to walk through invitations week after week after week. We also included a calendar invitation that went out to these directors and assistant directors that they could forward to their staff just for ease of accessing those meetings. All of the Microlearning Monday meetings are recorded, and we have a communication setup that goes out to the field in order to give them information about the presentations, the videos, the slides, and any resources that were part of the presentation. We also have Google Classroom set up for our Distance Learning Hub, and with our professional learning communities. Each of our 27 providers is part of a professional learning community group. So here's a sample of what our marketing person did with the communication. So because our state is divided into 2 different time zones, we did address that. We've got ease of access with the hyperlink. For people that are connecting to the presentations with smartphones, we've given them the information on how to get connected through the Cisco WebEx app. And once they attend those Microlearning Mondays, we do give them the option to connect in on the Wednesday workshop to kind of use the resources and ask questions, and that has gone very well for all of us. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to turn this over to Joanna, and she is going to walk you through a sample of what we did at one of our Microlearning Mondays. Joanna?
Thanks, Pam. For each Microlearning Monday session, facilitators create an interactive slide deck to help guide our 30-minute sessions. So this is a snip from that RLA session that we had, and I'm going to give you an idea through the next few slides of the agenda and the content that is similar throughout the weeks. Next slide, please. So each Microlearning Monday session follows an agenda similar to the one that you see here. This particular week, we wanted to highlight scaffolded resources for the entire family so that they could use it in quarantine. The slides in the deck include links to highlighted resources in each session. So in effect, we create a HyperDoc lesson that instructors can access across the state and can use to review the content or to work through it if they missed the original session. This particular week, we showcased Dolly Parton's Imagination Library as well as Storyline Online so that GED parents could work with their children on reading language arts, reasoning through language arts. We also highlighted NCFL's Wonderopolis and Deaf Poetry Jam for the teens and adults. We introduced our instructors to the instructional presentation tool ThingLink, and then that was something that we were going to come back to on Workshop Wednesday. Next. Next slide. Additionally, every Microlearning Monday session features instructors from our field showcasing how they have used technology to reach adults and in their particular curriculum and content. This particular week, we focused on 2 instructors from the same program. The one on the left, Leanne Branham, was highlighted for how she uses Google Classroom to reach her students, and how she also uses adult-specific resources like Common Lit, Newsella, and This Day in History. And then Sarah Simpson on the right was showcased for how she used screen recorders to tape her own RLA lessons and upload those videos to Google Classroom, and how within those videos she takes pains to show her own thinking process while she's reading so that she can demonstrate that process to her adult students. Next session, next slide, please. All of that was followed up on Wednesday with Workshop Wednesday. And in that session, Sarah demonstrated and her screencasting and answered questions about it. And Lori demonstrated thing links, curated content, and how we can create our own original content using ThingLink. Instructors were able to work along with Lori as she demonstrated the content and post questions in the chat, post questions just through their audio. And then that session, if I remember correctly, ended up, it was supposed to be 30 minutes, but it ended up going a little over. But instructors haven't minded when that has happened. Right now, I'm going to turn things over to Emily so that she can explain our follow-up procedures to the Microlearning Monday and Workshop Wednesday sessions.
Thanks, Joe. With so much information swirling about these days, as well as so many resources, our team has become very intentional about streamlining our communication with providers. So it took a bit, but we've settled into a predictable cadence of messaging around these sessions and how we share the messages. We send them out in a couple of ways. Sorry, there's a big truck going by. Hope you're not catching too much of that. So we send them out through a large email distribution list, and then we also post them, I think as Pam mentioned, in our PLC Google Classrooms, including linking them all in our distance learning hub. We've moved from our text-heavy professional learning newsletter to a pared-down version. You can see on the image there, a portion of it. It has bulleted lists sharing just the essential PL information. We send this out as follow-up to each week's Monday session, and then it includes the links to the slides and the recordings. Pam, will you go to the next slide? Thank you. It also has a short list of items. I try to keep it around 3, no more than 5, but items that maybe follow up on questions from the Monday session, or to share resources that they can explore prior to the Wednesday workshop. So this is the example that we sent out after the RLA session. So one last thing I'd like to note as something very positive that has come out of this is our increased interaction and collaboration with providers, and specifically instructional staff. We work together to think about session topics, plan for them, and highlight practices around the state. And through that process, we're building some great relationships that we know will continue going forward. Thank you.
All right, so to wrap things up, we've kind of taken you through the entire chronological process of how a week would look like with our new professional learning rapid response. What's next for us? Well, we have done 6 sessions so far, and at the end of that 6th session, we decided that it was time to survey our providers to see what they wanted us to focus on next. So we'll take the results of that survey and plan out future sessions. Our 7th session is going to be titled What's Working So Far? And we're going to just reinforce what had been covered in the previous 6 sessions and allow providers to have a moment to shine by demonstrating how they've applied all the resources that we covered in the first 6 sessions. We're beginning to vet the 3x3 professional learning products. And then in December, we're planning a celebration of learning to spotlight providers who have really embraced remote learning and used this as an opportunity to really upskill in EdTech, as opposed to, like I said earlier, being defeated or overcome by some of the obstacles that the pandemic is presenting. As Emily pointed out, we feel like we have had a great opportunity to increase collaboration and definitely improve our level of innovation. And so we're looking forward to new things coming. I think that does it for us, and thanks for the opportunity.